What makes Pantheon different is that it's not strictly a specialty coffee shop to make money per se. For me, the goal was to elevate the standard of coffee in Lahore.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Kaabil Kahani, where it is our job to bring out the stories of those founders of Pakistan who had a passion for something but also had the courage to bring it to the market. These are the people we say are building the new Pakistan. क्योंकि इनका एक शौक है, चाहे वो F&B का है, चाहे वो experiences create करने का है, digital products का है, या क्लोथिंग का है, बट इन लोगों ने पाकिस्तान के नॉर्म्स को रीडिफाइन करना शुरू कर दिया है बाय ब्रिंगिंग आउट द मार्केट समटाइम्स किसी बड़ी मल्टीनेशनल या बड़ी किसी इंपोर्टेड कंपनी के को बिल्कुल डिथ्रोन कर रहे हैं विद देयर प्रोडक्ट्स. दे आर द पीपल हु आर डिफाइनिंग द न्यू confidence, new optimism, new branding, new style, new design in Pakistan, and we love consuming their products. And by now, you've been consuming so many of these episodes. Thank you guys, for the love that you've been sharing. Also, you guys are seeing what we mean, right? All their products, their experiences are top class. As always, the goal is same, that this podcast you can find on Spotify and YouTube and on Kabil.school, but also you can find it as a case study on Kabil.school in your email inboxes as well, which you, if you haven't subscribed yet, just go to Kabil.school and subscribe as well. This episode is gonna be full of nugget. It's gonna be power packed with a lot of stories that you guys are gonna enjoy as well. Because our guest today is Usman Mahar, who runs Pantheon Coffee, and he runs it with a few friends. We will ask him all about that. We'll ask about the Inception story. We'll ask about what they do. I've been consuming them since around, I would say, late 2023, early 2024, and I've seen them grow in the Lahore ecosystem. A lot of good fun coming your way. With that, welcome Usman Mahar on Kaabil Kahani.
Hi, Ukas. Thanks for having me.
Usman, very not important question to start with, but very important for me. Among the books that I see behind, which I absolutely love, yaar, maza hi aa gaya dekh ke, what a great studio. Which one is your absolute favorite read? Whatever first one comes to your mind.
It's a book by Timothy Cooper called Moral Atmospheres. It's based on, he's an anthropologist, and it's based on fieldwork in Lahore. और उसने बेसिकली हॉल रोड के ऊपर अपनी एथनोग्राफिक स्टडी की, और उसके ऊपर बेसिकली एक बुक लिखी है कि किस तरह मीडिया स्केप्स जो हैं पाकिस्तान के वो मॉरली चार्ज्ड हैं, किस तरह के हमारे लाहौर बट ब्रॉडली ऑल्सो पाकिस्तान में मीडिया जो है इज वेरी लिंक्ड टू रिलीजन. और उसने उस पीरियड में लिखा था जब काफ़ी ज़्यादा कंजर्वेटिव काइंड ऑफ एटीट्यूड्स हैड टेकन ओवर हॉल रोड, और but at the same time Hall Road, as you know, over a long period of time was the hub of piracy for all kinds of media content. So it's a very interesting read, and I can really recommend to anybody who's interested in the topic.
Yeah, what an uncommon suggestion and so beautiful. Yeah, that also tells us, actually tell the audience as well, for the start with, that right now we are in about first quarter of 2025. What is happening, what all is happening in Usman's life? कहाँ से join कर रहा है इस podcast के लिए, और क्या क्या present में career slash interest wise क्या क्या चल रहा है?
तो मैं इस वक्त अभी हाइडलबर्ग में हूँ अपने अपार्टमेंट में. Heidelberg is in Germany, for those who might not know. But I expect कि काफ़ी सारे पाकिस्तानियों को हाइडलबर्ग का पता होगा, क्योंकि it's a place where Allama Iqbal spent some time. और मैंने 2023 में अपनी PhD कंप्लीट की University of Munich से, also another place जहाँ पे Allama Iqbal spent some time. So between these two cities, he also completed his PhD. और अभी मैं अपने पोस्ट डॉक के एक प्रोजेक्ट लिख रहा हूँ, on migration and cricket. But while I have some time अपनी PhD के बाद मैं जिस project के लिए आपने मुझे invite किया है उस पे काफी ज़्यादा time spend कर रहा हूँ. I was recently in Pakistan, spent almost a good month. Yeah, and I'm going to come back at the end of March again. तो अभी क्योंकि मेरे पास time है मैं Pantheon को दे रहा हूँ.
Yeah, Usman, there is so much connection and connection with that depth of Pakistan in how you speak and what you speak about. Now, the first book you recommended was The Hal Road and the History of Hal Road. Now it's like this is the first time I've ever heard anybody describe the two cities of Germany with connection to Ilama Iqbal and the PhDs on cricket. Like, aap sochoge, this all these things. They are in the soul of Pakistan. Iqbal and the Hal Road and cricket. These are like so much. So
Yeah.
that connection with Pakistan, do you really? It feels like you romanticize that, and that is beautiful to see. Do you do that? What is your what do you? How do you see Pakistan?
Just quickly, chota sa comment. My PhD was on migration. My postdoc hopefully will be on cricket
Oh,
and migration.
amazing.
Yeah, it's all a coincidence that I landed in Heidelberg for my master's and then continued क्या कहते हैं म्यूनिक में अपनी PhD के लिए ये जगह थी जहाँ इलामा इकबाल had spent time. But of course, I see Pakistan, coming back to your question. I was born in Pakistan. I was born in Lahore actually. Lived there for the first 20 or so years of my life. तो मेरी family वहीं पे है. So Pakistan has a very special place in my life. And even though now I'm settled here in Germany, मेरे ख्याल में यहाँ पे सेटल होने के बाद जो मेरा कनेक्शन पाकिस्तान के साथ है वो कुछ ज्यादा prominent हो गया है. It was not something I thought about too much before. लेकिन last year I got German citizenship और especially उसके बाद I think I've started thinking about Pakistan very differently. I don't know why. I wouldn't be able to explain it, but yeah.
Do you often find that you have a more uncommon feelings perspective on Pakistan, or is it very common among the circle of you friends who are hanging out, let's say, in Germany? And to give you a context, I've 15 years been living primarily outside of Pakistan. My connection to the way I speak about Pakistan now, of course, it has fluctuated during my life. Between 2010 onwards, I was one of those people who used to only have the same vocabulary when talk about Pakistan, जो बाकी लोगों की भी होती है, which was mostly filled with negative words. But over the last 4 or 5 years, my vocabulary when I describe Pakistan and my perspective has changed, and it has become more uncommon when it comes to my friends circle and the people I hang out with. Where do you see yourself in your? अभी एक तो आपने बताया कि citizenship के बाद थोड़ा सा change तो हुआ है, can't describe but हुआ तो है. But do you find that as an uncommon to you, or do you see it happening more around other people as well that you're hanging out with?
Maybe I can start with sharing that I'm an anthropologist by training, और तो जहाँ मैं कह सकता हूँ शायद मेरी सोच फर्क है मेरे दूसरे पीयर्स से जो पाकिस्तान से हैं यहाँ पे. शायद एंथ्रोपोलॉजी की वजह से I've hung around with a lot of anthropologists of Pakistan who see Pakistan from a very different light than,
much larger time frame as well. For them, Pakistan is not this 5 year bracket. It's a much larger time frame.
Yes, but also they don't necessarily see Pakistan in a positive or a negative frame, right? Unke liye Pakistan is just another place which has its good sides and its bad sides. And of course, you try and आप कोशिश करते हो कि आप जिस तरह किसी और जगह को देखते हो उसी तरह पाकिस्तान को भी देखो, एक जगह जिसका अपना कल्चर है, जिसकी अपनी सोसाइटी है, जिसके अपने रूल्स हैं, नॉर्म्स हैं, और उनको लोकल कॉन्टेक्स्ट में समझने की कोशिश करो, बजाय कि आप अपना जो फ्रेम ऑफ रेफरेंस है वो वहां पे उसके थ्रू देखने की कोशिश करो, राइट? तो आई आई रियली started looking at Pakistan differently जब मैंने एंथ्रोपोलॉजी पढ़नी शुरू की। तब मुझे अगर मैं क्रिटिकली किसी चीज को देख रहा था तो उसका मतलब ये नहीं था कि मैं किसी चीज से नफरत करता हूँ, या अगर मैं किसी चीज को पॉजिटिवली देख रहा था तो उसका मतलब ये नहीं था कि मैं आइडियोलॉजिकली ब्लाइंड हूँ, राइट? तो यस।
Oh man, that's so refreshing, yaar. So refreshing to hear that. Usman, we're gonna segue into the inception story of Pantheon Coffee. What stage in your life? What was happening? Where were you when you started? Let's say the first earliest memory you get where you start developing the love for coffee in a way that is that we can now see from your guys' brand, your post, and everything. But what are the earliest stories of you and or if there are your friends as well who are part of the Pantheon team? Uh, con involved and what is the earliest memory of you personally of falling in love with the coffee?
Maybe two separate things. Briefly, matlab, about coffee and me. Of course, I started appreciating coffee in the way that I do when I moved to the Netherlands. Uh, Wahan pe bhi, of course, I started consuming commercial coffee, but something that was different from, instant coffee, which we were used to in Pakistan, right? Pakistan में जब मैं बड़ा हो रहा था at least, तब वो स्टीम वाली कॉफी होती थी दूध के अंदर, और um, तो नेदरलैंड्स में मैं बैचलर्स के लिए जब गया तो आई रियली स्टार्टेड ड्रिंकिंग व्हाट यू कैन कॉल ब्रूड कॉफी, और commercial of course initially, फिर very quickly I got familiarized with what is known as specialty coffee, and later on we can go into the differences. So I guess 2011 की बात है ये। और उसके बाद पैंथियन की जो स्टोरी स्टार्ट होती है, इट स्टार्ट्स मच लेटर, 2019 और 2020 में एंड 21 में मैं पाकिस्तान आ रहा था रेगुलरली अपने पीएचडी के फील्ड वर्क के लिए, और आई एक्सपीरियंस्ड के there was a shift from instant coffee to brewed coffee already earlier, but like this was the first time I was um, spending more time in Pakistan, extended periods अपने field work के लिए। तो I won't take names, there were commercial cafes जहाँ पे आपको brewed coffee मिल रही थी, वो espresso machine यूज कर रहे थे, उनके पास ग्राइंडर्स थे, वो कॉफी फ्रेशली ग्राइंड कर रहे थे, लेकिन इट वाज कमर्शियल कॉफी, और बाय देन आई already had a little home brewing setup, तो मैं अपनी कॉफी खुद ब्रू किया करता था, और मेरी my knowledge in coffee was at a level where I could distinguish tastes in the local market, or the quality of coffee in the local market. और it occurred to me कि क्यों यहाँ, मतलब पाकिस्तान में there can be a market for specialty coffee, for good coffee. And around that time, I met somebody who is now a partner in Pantheon, like a co-founder, Ahmed Simab, who used to work at a cafe. And जब मैं दूसरी बार अपने फील्ड वर्क के लिए गया, तो I took my own coffee with me, and we would talk about the different coffees, we would brew them together, and we started discussing possibilities. And coincidentally, one of my childhood friends had opened up Baked at around that time. And initially, he had set up a little. This is back when Baked was a small shop
in Kent.
in the PF in Kent, PF market में. और sorry, yeah.
हाँ
So
no worries.
एक छोटी सी shop थी, and they had set up a bar, and I went there, and I was like, Hamza. So Hamza is the friend. Perhaps we can do something about the coffee. And he's like, yes, I'm all for, better coffee. And that's how basically Pantheon started. We're like, let's do this.
This was 2020, 2021, ये वाला जो ये time
This
period.
was end of 2020. And yeah.
Yeah, we cannot move forward before bringing everybody on the same page about what is a commercial coffee, what is an instant coffee, what is a brewed coffee, what is a specialty coffee, और दो चार जो main terms हैं, इसका एक हमारे लिए एक tree बना दो.
Sorry, lots of probably jargon for people out there. तो हम start इस तरह कर लेते हैं, पाकिस्तान की अपनी local market evolution से, probably without taking any names, would be better. I grew up in the 90s and 2000s, और तब एक काफी पॉपुलर ब्रांड होता था जिसकी कॉफी सैशे में मिलती थी, और वो एक पाउडर होता था, या फिर एक जार में मिलती थी. फिर कुछ और ब्रांड्स भी आए, वो भी जार में एक पाउडर फॉर्म में, जिसको आप इंस्टेंट कॉफी कहते हैं. वो जो कॉफी, इंस्टेंट कॉफी बेसिकली बनाने का तरीका जो होता है, मे बी दैट हेल्प्स डिस्टिंग्विश देन ब्रूड कॉफी, व्हिच आई विल एक्सप्लेन लेटर. वो ये होता है कि आप कॉफी के बीन्स लेते हो, उनको ग्राइंड करते हो, उनको ब्रू करते हो, द कंपनीज दैट मेक दिस इंस्टेंट कॉफी, और फिर उसको डिहाइड्रेट करते हो. फिर वो जो डिहाइड्रेटेड पाउडर होता है, दैट यू पुट इन अ जार, which the consumer can very easily scoop and mix in water, and you have the brew there.
ठीक है. So that is like almost like a crystallized, dehydrate करके almost crystallized form में ले आए, ताकि दोबारा से घुल गया पानी के अंदर.
Exactly. ताकि आपको brewing के लिए जो equipment होती है वो required ना हो, right? और पाकिस्तानी market में back then, a traditionally tea drinking nation, जहाँ पे लोगों के पास equipment नहीं होती, लोग चाहेंगे भी नहीं उसमें इन्वेस्ट करना, this was a good way to introduce coffee to such a market, right? And it worked. हर कोई उसको जानता है. और उसके बाद जो सेकंड कह लें वेव पाकिस्तानी मार्केट में कॉफी की, वो कैफेज के थ्रू आई. there are a bunch of names, I won't name them. इंटरनेशनल ब्रांड्स हैं जिन्होंने अपनी बेसिकली franchises खोली different parts of the country. और वो जो कॉफी लाए, वो ऑफ कोर्स इंस्टेंट कॉफी नहीं थी, वो कॉफी ग्राउंड्स या कॉफी बीन्स थे जिनसे वो कॉफी इन हाउस बनाते थे, लेकिन वो कमर्शियल कॉफी थी. इस स्टेज पे it would be good to distinguish between commercial and specialty coffee. कॉफी की जो फसल होती है या कॉफी की जो हार्वेस्ट होती है, उसके बाद उसको ग्रेड किया जाता है ऑन अ स्केल ऑफ 1 to 100. ठीक है. There are specific people who do this. Perhaps we can go into this later, but at this stage it suffices to understand that the coffee beans, after being harvested, are kind of quality controlled, और उनकी ग्रेडिंग होती है 0 से लेके 100 तक. जो 80 से ऊपर जिसका स्कोर होता है उसको हम कहते हैं स्पेशलिटी कॉफी. ठीक है. हम इसकी तरफ बाद में आ जाएंगे. अभी हम आ जाते हैं 80 से नीचे. 80 से नीचे several brackets होते हैं. I won't go into detail because for the common consumer perhaps it will be too confusing. At this stage मेरे ख्याल में ये अंडरस्टैंड करना अच्छा होएगा कि हर 10-20 पॉइंट्स का जो सेगमेंट होता है उसके साथ क्वालिटी कीप्स डिक्रीजिंग, राइट? तो आप 0 से 10 वाली कॉफी सबसे बुरी है, 10 से 20 वाली उससे बेहतर बेहतर बेहतर, आप 80 तक आते हो जो थ्रेशोल्ड है जिससे ऊपर स्पेशलिटी है. इससे नीचे सारी को हम सॉर्ट ऑफ फॉर नाउ कमर्शियल लंप कर देते हैं.
कमर्शियल.
ठीक है. उसमें अब डिफरेंट ग्रेड्स ऑफ कमर्शियल हैं. ऑफ कोर्स जो 60 से 80 वाली कमर्शियल है, दैट्स बेटर कमर्शियल देन द वन दैट्स 0 to 60. जो इंस्टेंट में यूज होती है दैट्स ऑफ द लोएस्ट क्वालिटी, राइट? बिकॉज इट्स द चीपेस्ट. आप क्योंकि उसको डिहाइड्रेट कर रहे हो, यू आर नॉट वरीड अबाउट द फ्लेवर्स. उसका जैसा मर्जी फ्लेवर हो वो एंड पे मिक्स करके एक ही जैसा बन जाएगा. ठीक है. 60 से 80 वाली जो है वो कॉफी है जो काफी सारे लाहौर में कमर्शियल कैफे हाउसेस जो हैं वो यूज करते हैं.
राइट राइट राइट.
ऑफ कोर्स वो बेहतर है उस पहली वाली जो मैंने बात की है इंस्टेंट कॉफी में जो यूज होती है, लेकिन ऑफ कोर्स वो 80 से 100 से सब पार है. और वो यूज इसलिए करते हैं क्योंकि वो सस्ती भी मिलती है. अब आ जाते हैं हम स्पेशलिटी कॉफी की तरफ. ऑफ कोर्स 80 से ऊपर आप जैसे जैसे जाते हो वो उतनी एक्सपेंसिव और रेयर होती जाती है. और इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में दो ही रोस्टर्स हैं जो स्पेशलिटी कॉफी बीन्स के साथ काम कर रहे हैं. I don't know if I can take names.
You can take names, otherwise
yeah.
I will take names and you can correct me
so
if they are right or wrong.
Yes, perhaps that's a good guess.
मैं तो पिछले वाले का भी यही कहने लगा था, because you can't take names because you are in the business, but being a consumer, guys, from 2010 onwards, the second wave जो हम दोस्तों ने कंज्यूम करनी शुरू की थी वो थे कॉफी बीन एंड टी लीफ और ग्लोरिया जीन्स, और उसके बाद more recently Tim Hortons. These became the big branches in Pakistan in the second wave. And no idea absolutely कि there is a thing of which is commercial coffee का 60 to 80 grade होता है and 80 plus is so much learning यार. I am having the time of my life. पूरे 20 साल से कॉफी पी पी के किसी ने आज तक बताया ही नहीं था कि 80 से ऊपर वाली स्पेशलिटी कॉफी है और 80 से नीचे कमर्शियल कॉफी है. Usman, yeah, it is amazing to know. And I think Red Berry Roasters and Nomad Coffee are probably the two famous ones these days that I know of.
Yes, precisely. These are the two local roasters which जो स्पेशलिटी कॉफी को रोस्ट करते हैं. हम अपनी थोड़ी सी इन हाउस रोस्टिंग करते हैं, पर इतनी ज्यादा नहीं क्योंकि हमने अभी ही शुरू की है. और वी डू वांट टू प्लेटफॉर्म दीज other roasters which have good suppliers. They have connections with farmers and different places. Or we also don't want to be we don't want to exclusively have one roaster. तो अगर हम roasting अपनी capacities increase भी कर देते हैं, as Pantheon we'd always like to have different roasters curated at our coffee shops, because specialty coffee mein it's all about diversity, right? It's not just about getting good coffee. um, Getting good coffee is a good starting point. Uske baad there's art, right? Roasting is an art. So we don't want to be the only artists, क्योंकि that kind of art perhaps is very restrictive. तो हम हमेशा जब हम अपनी रोस्टिंग को थोड़ा इंक्रीज भी करते हैं और रिटेल करना भी शुरू करते हैं, तब भी हम पैंथियन पे we would always have different roasters.
I'll ask some questions that might seem silly, but all of us,
No.
the audience, are masses are like me. So this question is in a lot of people's mind कि जो roasteries हैं जैसे कि रेड बेरी रोस्टर और नोमैड कॉफी रोस्टर कह लें, अगर ये तो जो जिसको हम ग्रेडिंग कह रहे थे 0 to 100, जिसको कॉफी की फसल, वो कॉफी की फसल बीन्स की फॉर्म में ही आती है और ग्रेडिंग उसी लेवल पे हो जाती है बिफोर इट एंटर्स द रोस्ट्री के रोस्ट्री makes a difference in terms of whether this is a commercial coffee or a specialty coffee?
Good question. तो जो ग्रेडिंग होती है उस पे बहुत सारे डिफरेंट क्राइटेरिया होता है. उसमें कुछ क्राइटेरिया ऑफ कोर्स बीन की डिफरेंट के लें स्टेजेस पे होता है. ग्रीन बीन से लेके उसके फाइनल रोस्टिंग तक. ऑफ कोर्स जब उसकी ग्रेडिंग होती है उसमें उसको उसकी फ्लेवर प्रोफाइलिंग भी होती है, तो रोस्ट करके भी उसको देखा जाता है. उसकी पिछली स्टेज में प्रोसेसिंग जो होती है कॉफी की वो भी देखी जाती है. तो परहैप्स मैंने एक टू सिंप्लीफाई थिंग्स मैंने एक बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेज बीच में इग्नोर कर दी. और शायद इस स्टेज पे मैं उसको एक्सप्लेन कर दूं तो बेहतर होएगा. कॉफी की जो फसल होती है और रोस्टिंग के दरमियान कॉफी की प्रोसेसिंग होती है, ठीक है. बहुत सारे आजकल तरीके हैं. 3 मेन तरीके होते हैं जिस जो कॉफी की प्रोसेसिंग के. once you have the cherry, the coffee bean comes in the form of a fruit which is known as a cherry. It's a little red fruit. उसको उसमें से जब वो दाना निकाला जाता है जिसको हम बीन कहते हैं, जो सीड उसका, और रोस्टिंग तक उसके बीच में उसकी प्रोसेसिंग होती है. वो 3 मेन तरीके होते हैं. एक को कहते हैं नेचुरल, जिसमें ऐसा किया जाता है कि वो चेरी को लेके आप सूखने देते हो. जब वो उसका जो फ्रूट है वो सूख जाता है, यू टेक इट ऑफ और आपके पास ग्रीन बीन आ जाता है. दूसरा प्रोसेस होता है उसको कहते हैं हनी. यू टेक ऑफ द फ्रूट, लेकिन उसका जो पल्प होता है थोड़ा सा वो साथ लगा रहता है. यू डोंट क्लीन इट. उसको फिर आप ड्राई करते हो. So this process gets known as honey because the pulp that remains on the bean looks a little bit like honey. और तीसरा होता है washed. Basically आप बीन के ऊपर से फौरन फ्रूट उतार देते हो, यू वॉश इट और उसको फिर आप ड्राई करते हो. अब ये 3 मेन तरीके हैं. इसके अलावा अब बहुत सारे नए तरीके आ रहे हैं जिसमें आप कॉफी को फर्मेंट करते हो डिफरेंट चीजों के साथ, उस स्टेज पे फ्रूट के साथ. लेकिन हम विल स्टिक टू दीज 3. ऑफ कोर्स ये सारी चीजें play a role in how the coffee develops. Of course, uski harvesting also plays a role. So all these different stages of the in the life of a coffee bean play a role कि उसकी grading में end पे क्या उसको score मिलता है.
That's amazing. Yeah, very well articulated. We totally get it. And then, so now you're talking about, say you were in the second wave. you were saying आपका जो एक बड़ा explanation चाहिए थी, the second wave you started experiencing the second time you started coming to Pakistan. तो बचपन था पाकिस्तान में, but उसके बाद late 2019 or before, a bit before and after that, you're starting experiencing that Pakistan is now warming up to commercial coffee, which is a stage above than the instant coffee. घर में घोला, साशे लेके आए, बस ठीक है, उससे अब हम. So what is so अब ये हो रहा है यहाँ पे. So are you, so being and by that time in your own life, you've already, in your Netherlands experiences, you've already experienced the specialty, the world of the specialty coffee as well.
Mm-hmm.
And were you beginning to see the signs of specialty coffee can be introduced in Pakistan? There is an audience, or you were just like in the more experimental mode? Can it be?
I don't know about the market in Karachi. At that time, I did not know about the market in Karachi or Islamabad. लाहौर में मुझे कुछ साइंस नजर आ रहे थे, कुछ जगहें थी, even though they were very commercial. उनके पास कुछ brewing equipment थी. For example, Uncle Tetsu. I don't know if you remember.
No. But we famous Uncle Tetsu हमारे लिए तो सिर्फ famous था for the Japanese cheesecake or something. Yeah.
Exactly. But because it was Japanese, I think there was an element of good coffee in there, जो कि पाकिस्तान में catch नहीं किया. मुझे याद है वहाँ पे उनके पास V60s filter coffee की equipment थी, लेकिन of course there was no demand, or they did not want to invest, probably like the local franchisee probably did not want to invest in the kind of beans that were needed, क्योंकि beans की shelf life जो होती है specialty coffee में, after they're ready to be brewed, is about a month, right? And if you don't consume it, it's basically waste. तो मैं समझ सकता हूँ कि उस मार्केट उस वक्त इस तरह की थी कि वो इक्विपमेंट शायद उन्होंने इन्वेस्ट किया हो फ्रेंचाइजी की वजह से, लेकिन अपनी कॉफी में उन्होंने फिर बाद में उसको कंटिन्यू नहीं किया. तो वो स्टेज थी जब मैं अपनी बीन्स साथ लाता था, और I would go to a place like this and get it brewed there, right?
Okay. Amazing. Yeah. Carrying your own beans with you and then just finding a vendor to brew them for you. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, carry on. फिर आप बताए थे. So this was one of the signs you were looking at. What else comes to your mind? What was the landscape of 2019 to 2020 type?
Of course,
जिसको हम as a consumer, again talking from the consumer perspective, as a consumer, we in our minds, as a consumer mind, we started, me and my group of friends started consuming a lot more of artisans and third culture and double shots in the last 5 years. And in our head, being a consumer, this was like these guys are non-commercial coffee. These ones are more better coffee that way. So is it just consumers' perception of it, or was it the third wave that artisan third culture and double shot were capitalizing on?
Yeah, no. So exactly, I remember. So third culture wasn't there at the moment. Double shot definitely not. Artisan had just started around the time, right? Or actually, it started जब मैं दूसरी बार आया. पहली बार जब मैं अंकल टेत्सू पे जा रहा था और अपनी ये ब्रूइंग शेनानिगन्स कर रहा था, उस वक्त नहीं था. But in the meanwhile, it opened up. So उससे मुझे, it reconfirmed this hunch that I had. Like, okay, so the market is kind of ready. There might not be a lot of people who would appreciate specialty coffee, but somebody's taken this step, right? उन्होंने अपनी recently cafe खोले था artisan वालों ने, and so this is what kind of led us to start.
Right.
और हमारे खुलने के थोड़ी देर बाद फिर थर्ड कल्चर आ गया, और उसके फिर थोड़ी देर बाद double shot.
Right.
And but what maybe it would be, I feel like it's necessary to highlight um, how perhaps Pantheon is very different from all these third wave.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because that is what I'm confused as well. Because I did like before this call, and also 99.9% of us Pakistanis didn't know कि specialty coffee का कहाँ से ही change हो जाता है as compared to the commercial coffee. So in our
Hmm.
head, are the artisans, double shots, and the third cultures of Pakistan, और एक दो और भी शायद छोटे हैं, लेकिन these are
Hmm.
big names. Are they specialty coffee or are they commercial coffee? We don't know. We just consume them because they're Pakistani,
Yeah.
and
No,
they feel like they make better. It feels
hmm.
to the consumer that they make better coffee than the Glorias and the Tim Hortons.
Yeah. No, they are specialty coffee shops. In fact, I think um, after we introduced Nomad in the Lahore specialty coffee ecosystem, a lot of others have started using them. So even places which are not per se specialty coffee shops sometimes use specialty coffee beans. So I know a few, I think it's Vanilla by Hafsa or something like that,
Yep.
जिन्होंने
The-
जो Nomad से beans लेके, coffee is not their main business, but still uh, she used to be a customer, or I remember उन्होंने कहा हम अपने cafe पे we want to have good coffee, and we put them in touch with Nomad. Double Shot, for example, uses Nomad. So now a lot of people are using coffee that we began with, um, and we're happy about that, right? Like for us, this was never about having exclusivity, right? And I think, yeah, to answer your question in short, a lot of these places are specialty coffee shops. Um, I can't say much about the standards that they adhere to, because once you go into specialty coffee, of course, there's a whole world within that 80 to 100
yeah, yeah,
grade, right?
hundred
उसमें
percent.
बहुत सारी चीजें आ जाती हैं. You use blends, so to save costs, right? Like बजाय कि आप सिंगल ओरिजिन यूज करो, सिंगल ओरिजिन मीनिंग आपकी कॉफी जो है एक कंट्री ऑफ ओरिजिन से आई है और एक वैरायटी की हो सकती है. लेकिन ऑफ कोर्स दैट मीन्स वो ज्यादा एक्सपेंसिव होती है. um, तो what I can say is काफी सारी जगहों पे um, उनकी जो सिलेक्शन है उसके बारे में ऑफ कोर्स मैं नहीं बोल सकता. मैं अपनी सिलेक्शन के बारे में बोल सकता हूँ. हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हम हमेशा एक ब्लेंड रखें which pairs well with milk and which allows us to not be outrageously expensive, um, but still give the customer good coffee. पर साथ में हम एक सिंगल ओरिजिन भी रखते हैं, for which we don't charge extra, even though it's costing us much more. क्योंकि we feel like, yes, people who do want that kind of coffee should be able to have it. और यहाँ पे मैं अपने पिछले पॉइंट पे आ जाता हूँ. What makes Pantheon different is that it's not strictly a specialty coffee shop to make money per se. For me, the goal was to elevate the standard of coffee in Lahore. Um, for the first 2 years, none of us took out anything, financially speaking, and even now we are reinvesting most of our earnings into constantly upgrading equipment, into opening a new branch, and training people, which is the thing that makes Pantheon very different. हम पहले दिन से, and this has to do with me coming here, craving for good coffee, but doing my PhD on irregular migration, or spending a lot of time with Pakistani youth who wanted to leave Pakistan, often with very little skills, and also doing fieldwork with them or people like them in places like Italy or Germany. Um, तो मुझे ये नजर आया कि I can combine these two things. I can combine my passion for coffee, and at the same time, we can, as a small business, train people, give them skills. So what Pantheon does is it hires people who might have no skills, first sends them for a training and a certification. We do this with the Barista Guild Asia, which is run by one of our partners. And it was very important for me that Ahmed Semab, who runs this institution, was on board not as a consultant, not as somebody we had hired, but had a stake in this business, right? And in that way, we ensure that people get this training, get the necessary certifications. Pantheon or BGA covers for this. Oftentimes, these are people who come from low-income households and would not be able to afford this training, and then immediately they're given a paid internship of about 3 months at Pantheon, where they're supervised with a senior barista. But they can start earning after a week of full hands-on training, theory, everything in the academy. They join Pantheon. They're paid from the first day. They have 3 months of practical training, or you could call it an internship. And then they're moved to a full-time employee. And they can leave at any time. So we are happy when somebody gets a job at Third Culture or Double Shot. Actually, I'm very proud that a lot of people trained at Pantheon work at Third Culture, work at Double Shot. Some of our baristas or ex-baristas now work in Dubai. So this is what makes Pantheon perhaps quite different from the other cafes that are strictly speaking coffee businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Usman, this is so fabulous to hear. There's such a bigger ecosystem that is operating around just your passion or love for coffee. And एक तो अहमद जुबाब नाम है.
Semab, S-E-M-A-B.
Ahmed Sebab, what a friend to have, man, who runs, as you said, BGA proper institute for this as well. I think that itself is a story as well. वो भी काफी, it's been few years, or it's a very recent initiative?
No, it's been a few years. Ahmed was supposed to be here today. He's unfortunately sick. So perhaps that would make for another episode, actually.
No, we did not know. This is so good to know, and I think he's the one that I see in the home barista workshops as well. I think yeah.
Exactly.
So with that, where the skills training is happening with Pantheon Coffee, which is of course, I want to know more about the coffee part as well, where all about it's where people get it, who are the customers who get it, but also these two, and then on the third aspect there is this home barista workshops that have started as well. So the feeling that I'm getting is it's a very, very different feeling to just a cafe, just a coffee house. It's a beautiful umbrella and the ecosystem that we're looking at. So मुझे and there's so many branches. So I wanna talk about just the coffee part of it, Pantheon Coffee. So right now, is it available in the four bake branches? Yeah, is it available at many different places in Lahore? How are people consuming the Pantheon Coffee?
Yes, so it's available at all Baked branches. Baked is opening up a new branch in Gulberg soon. It will have its biggest bar to date in that branch. Um, and apart from that, Pantheon has a standalone studio, we call it. Like it's a little coffee lab and studio, which is also a place where customers can walk in and get a coffee. This is located at our space, Gulmohar Trade Center, which is a co-working space. Our space is a co-working space. And there we also organize our home barista workshops because um, depending on the number of people, this can be done in the studio or in one of the common rooms at the co-working space. And you're very right to point out that it's not merely a coffee shop. It's a whole ecosystem which banks on the skill set and abilities of all the different partners and co-founders, or um, coffee. Giving the customer good coffee is one thing, and it's a very important thing. Um, but it comes together and very nicely with all these other aspects that I mentioned, right? Like, अगर हम अपने baristas खुद train कर रहे हैं, we have a much better oversight of the kind of coffee they're making. Um, we have a much better control over the metrics that they're using. And we can bring them in for retraining whenever we feel like, and I will give an example later, perhaps. We feel like our staff is deviating from the parameters that we want to have. On the other side, the home barista workshop also fits very nicely because we want to, at the same time, um, for the lack of a better word, educate the customer, not in a sense that we think our customers don't have enough knowledge, but just to be able to add to their understanding and knowledge and experience of coffee. And so in our home barista workshops, we have people who know very little about coffee, to people who already have an espresso machine at home and have been brewing for a couple of years. And we're able to cater to all of them in different ways, right? And that's not just beneficial for us as a business, but for the whole specialty coffee industry in Pakistan, right? It helps people differentiate between the likes of these commercial brands that you just named and the homegrown specialty coffee shops like Third Culture, Artisan, Double Shot, and us. So, and for us, this part is very important. Oh.
Oh, totally. So from a customer perspective, जब हम Pantheon पे जाते हैं, so
Hmm.
we get what do we get? So one, though I completely understand, we get specialty beans, but within, so as a customer, we choose single origin and blended, and do they get grounded right in front from the machine, and then just get it from the machine, or Chemex bhi hai, V60 bhi hai? What is the experience like? This customer feels that they are also getting a specialty coffee and not just a commercial coffee. Is that important as well, or customers don't want to know? I don't know. Like, how do you
Yeah,
define?
yeah, no, very good question. So this is again where I'd say we are very different from most of the other specialty coffee shops in Lahore, because we're not strictly speaking a cafe in the sense that Third Culture and Double Shot are. Um, and one aspect is our partnership with Baked, right? So depending on the Baked location and the space we have a specific menu that can be worked around in that space. So, for example, in phase 6 and Z block, we're unable to have a V60 or a Chemex, or in particularly in phase 6, we're unable to have um, single origin because there's not enough space for a second grinder, right? Um, but wherever possible, we try and provide as many possibilities for our customers as possible. So for example, in our new branch that will be opening soon in Gulberg with Baked, as I said, we will have our biggest bar to date, where we will have filter coffee, where we will have single origin, perhaps even two single origin hoppers. Um, we we've invested in one of a kind grinder um, for our blended coffee, which is, as far as I know, is we are the first ones to buy this grinder. It's a it's a grinder by Chiado. It's an Italian company, and it's one of the few zero retention grinders ever produced, which means that when you grind coffee, even if you grind it fresh, there's some retention in your grinder. तो अगर आप 18 ग्राम की डोज ले रहे हो अपनी कॉफी ब्रू करने के लिए, तो उसमें तकरीबन 1 से 2 ग्राम जो है वो पिछली ग्राइंड हुई कॉफी के होते हैं, और जब आपने ग्राइंड किया तो उसमें से 1 से 2 ग्राम जो है आपकी जब फ्रेशली ग्राउंड कॉफी जो है उधर लॉज हो जाती है, and you brew it, and
Right.
then when the next customer comes, that previously lodged coffee comes in, and then another gram or two gets trapped. And this grinder has a specific system in place which ensures that there is minimal, so it's 0.02, near to none retention. So that means each time you come in for an espresso or a coffee made with espresso, you'll get the freshest ground, which may not matter a lot for your average consumer, but it definitely matters for people who feel like, okay, now we have specialty coffee in Pakistan, but it has somehow plateaued. So we are also trying to now cater to those customers where you get the best of the best. And our espresso machine that we got for this branch is a Victoria Arduino Black Eagle, and is the same machine that was used in the World Barista Championship
All
competitions
right.
for over
All
7
right.
years, right? So we're now focusing in on those kind of things where, yeah, we could get a very good espresso machine that would function very well for specialty coffee, but we're trying to elevate the experience of coffee for those who would perhaps be able to appreciate it, but at the same time not
Amazing.
forgetting uh, the majority of our customers who want good coffee.
Yeah, this ideology now of becoming in in your own ecosystem, becoming the top providing the top 1% quality coffee. And then when the top 1% keeps changing as well, because even that plateaus, and then keep maintaining the top 1%, the mastery of the craft and that it takes, it is so refreshing to hear. And this is so refreshing to hear because Pakistan ke andar ek general perception hai, which is of course data backed, it's not just false, कि things start with the hype, and the moment they start scaling up, the people who start running them, quality jun jati hai. So many restaurants and even fabrics of the apparels. I mean, some of our favorite brands, yaar. I can't even. I feel almost sad to say that जब लामा वगैरह को मैं ऑनलाइन लेता था versus अब लामा यूं गई कपड़ों की क्वालिटी, आउटफिटर्स एक जमाने में आज से 10-15 years ago यूं गई. Similarly, restaurants are all around the place. The moment they scale up, they go down. But instead of going that way, Pantheon का जो DNA है, the doctrine है, it feels like a very Japanese sushi place type. वहां पे they would keep it to like 13 stools कि 13 से ज्यादा हमारे एक टाइम पे कस्टमर्स नहीं आ सकते, लेकिन उस 13 stools को मेंटेन करने के लिए, as the world sushi industry is also becoming better, how do you keep becoming better and better? तो वो एक बड़ा बड़ा एक different सा fabric मिल रहा है. And I don't know, which I think I want to ask about this. How do you think of the scaling question? Is that a consistent pressure as well? कि scale करना है, तेज करना है, ज़्यादा जगहों पे जाना है, कि is it a conscious choice कि it's gonna be a sushi bar in Japan with just 13 desks and it's gonna maintain that standard, and जहाँ which is a specialty sushi. So how do you see the scaling question?
Thanks. That's a really good question and a very good observation. और you're also very right to point out कि पाकिस्तान में ये अक्सर होता है, you're getting big and you just want to scale up for the sake of scaling up, and in the process you compromise on your goals, the vision that you perhaps began with. Or I think they're having my friends as my partners in this business is refreshing because we're able to bounce off and reflect on these ideas and opportunities with each other, right? And हम बड़े एक दूसरे के साथ open, frank conversations. Of course, each of us has their domain and we try not to step in each other's domain and respect each other's decisions, but we don't hesitate from debating on these questions, right? It's not a one-man show. And I think when you have a one-man show, perhaps those kind of things do happen. You start thinking as the boss and the sate, and you just want to perhaps get bigger, and so that would be one thing. Of course, we do want to scale, but we want to scale in the sense of being able to provide good coffee to more people, right? We don't want to sell a franchise like Artisan, right? I think that's what happened with Artisan. They were going.
It clearly is. Yeah, we also now know which branches to go and which to avoid because it's not the consistent experience around every branch.
Exactly, and I think let's see where we go. But
yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to interfere. Sorry, I want to interfere because you mentioned having your friends as your partners. So Ahmed ke alawa, is there any other person in the picture as well, and what is he or she does?
Yes. So as I mentioned in the beginning, जो तीन दूसरे partners हैं, they are the founders of Baked. Hamza Nazir, Umar Nazir, and Moiz Nazir. These are three brothers जिनके साथ I went to school at Edson. और Hamza Nazir, the middle brother, is a childhood friend. We are Chuddy buddies from like grade 3. Then we even went to Toronto for a year. That's a whole other story. Like freshman year, we stopped. We dropped out and went into a different program at a different university. But yeah, so Hamza and I go way back, and he handles the financial aspect of the business. That's where I can't speak much. And I'm grateful that we have him doing that, and then Umar and Moise are doing the business development, and of course looking after baked, and in essence that ensures our organic growth, because as baked grows, Pantheon grows, and in that sense we also feel sheltered a little bit, because we don't have to think too much independently of growth perspectives. Ahmed and I can focus on delivering good coffee, barista trainings, workshops, international collaborations, and keeping up with the coffee world. And Hamza, Omar, and Moise can handle the business aspect.
Yeah, it is so fun to hear, because when boys grow up now, and now the boys are in their like 30s roughly, given few, and boys are doing something that they're passionate about, including bake and coffee, and they're doing something, and it almost becomes like a team of like we're playing cricket together, and like it's fun when you're on cricket with your boy gang, and you're talking about cricket, you're playing cricket. So doing things that you guys are passionate about, both baked and Pantheon together, it is the best kind of sports to play in the adult ages, like in our 30s and onwards. It's so much fun to even just listen to this.
Yeah,
Usman,
no,
in the
absolutely.
yeah, in the last, let's say 10-15 minutes, some of the rapid fire kind of questions, but on the business sense. So for example, Pantheon Coffee, the name Pantheon, how does it come? And the answers can't answers sometimes, I know the answers might have a longer story, and you're more married to a Pantheon, and that is fine. But yeah, so last 4 5 such questions around the business. So Pantheon
Yeah.
Coffee, where does the name come? How does it come?
Yeah, so a good question. Originally, when we started Pantheon, we already had a goal of setting up a roastery as well. And but not only, as I mentioned earlier, we always wanted to showcase different beans, uh, roasted in-house, but also by other local and also international roasters. So the term Pantheon is uh, basically alludes to the Greek mythological house of different mythological figures, each with their own expertise, or what their abilities, or what they were able to do, you know. So the idea was that we'd be the house of great coffee. We'd be showcasing different coffees with different attributes, and we would be able to name them after different Greek mythological figures, and use that to perhaps describe the coffee, and we do that with some of our drinks. If you've seen some of our bottled drinks, we do use different mythological figures to describe the flavor profile of the coffee, the body and the taste, and so on. So from the get-go, perhaps the best way to sum up this question is, Pantheon was a term that we thought would enable us to showcase really good coffee, and use these Greek mythological figures to
I know,
describe
yeah.
them.
And to
Yeah.
be honest, what a great branding the decision for the name as well, because the what the mission is ना ये उसके साथ बहुत सही बैठता है. It has the feel of a specialty coffee, right? It's a solid सा भारी नाम है पूरा. The second around this rapid fire round is the branding and design part. Who are the people who have done the branding and design of it? And especially when we see on Instagram, ना, the बड़ी जबरदस्ती एक theme है. Again, the
Hmm.
color palette that is being used for guys. Guys, do check it out. पहले तो मैं सबको बता दूं. It is Pantheon Coffees. Coffees is a plural at Pantheon Coffees on PantheonCoffees on Instagram. So I was talking about the color, the color combinations. Now this matte green beige का mixture with again like it's जैसे कि Pantheon होगा in terms of and the color palettes and the branding and having a lot of statues in different posts of the Greek mythological figures. So ये पूरा design board कैसे, how is it gotten created? Who is the person behind?
Slowly evolved over time. So the branding and the marketing side of Pantheon is actually done by my sister, um, and closely in communication with me. And she has a whole team with her. She has her um, own company with her partner. It's called MTech, uh, MTECH, and Mushtaba and Naheen are doing a great job in social media marketing and app designing and a whole bunch of other things, especially in the apparel market. But this was their first food and beverage kind of project, which she took because I forced her to, because she's my younger sister. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So you should say from the time Pantheon has this branding going on for last 4-ish years.
No, if you go to our page, you'll see it evolve over time. We started
Right.
with a very basic logo that Naheen and Mushtaba designed on a Canva on Canva, and this was back at the beginning, and then over time we discussed things, and it
Nice.
became what it is today.
Does anybody take credit for the tagline "Escape the Ordinary"?
Me. Yes.
That's it's always a lot of fun to come up with something that sticks with the business. Escape the ordinary. Was there a
Yeah.
second contender for the line as well? Was there any other line that was gonna make it but didn't make it? The
Um,
tagline?
yeah. Don't just drink, experience.
Not bad.
And that still made it in a way. You'll see it in some places, but it's not the main tagline. So I still force Naheen to use it. If you go to our Gulmohar branch, the shop in our spaces, you'll see it there. And that also goes very much in line with the vision we had, where um, you can drink good coffee, but specialty coffee can also be an experience, right? So that's why don't just drink great coffee, experience. Yeah.
Next question around this is the target customers. Is it when Pantheon was starting, was there a very clear idea in mind at who are the people who are going to consume specialty coffee? And has that stayed true and has that evolved over the last few years looking at who are our target customers now? And so who are the people who would be consuming more of this?
I mean, initially the question was very easy for us, um, because we had opened up in baked. It was the baked clientele that we wanted to capture, um, and we proved ourselves to Hamza, Umar, and and Moise very quickly. As soon as Pantheon went into partnership with Baked, the coffee sales picked up. We had a lot of positive reviews, and there was a lot of appreciation. Um, at the same time, I think if we unpack this, इसको हम इस तरह unpack कर सकते हैं कि कुछ जगहों पे मुझे कॉफी मिल रही थी जो was not just specialty, it was commercial coffee, but perhaps sometimes even instant coffee, branded as commercial coffee. So bottles में brew हुई या brew नहीं हुई, mix हुई, and I was like, there's a lot of people who are misleading customers and charging crazy sums for perhaps simply, not perhaps, I was pretty sure, instant coffee. So for me, this was a very easy market to capture. We didn't change our prices. We kept the prices that these products had, but delivered with good specialty coffee, right? And it was very easy to convince the customers because they realized, okay, there's something very different for the same price.
Are you able to tell whether a certain customer is a customer because they are educated coffee buyers and they are really looking for what they want in the market, which is a specialty coffee, or they are the convenience coffee takers कि यार अब गुजर ही रहे हैं, जा ही रहे हैं कहीं पे, बेक से कुछ लेने आए थे तो चलो एक जो कॉफी मिल रही है जिसकी भी है ले लो. And there's a third big category in Pakistan, which is an Instagrammable coffee, where it's like Gen Z है, अगर एक चीज cool है तो हमने तो लगानी है, and this gives us a social status. कुछ within now at the back end, are you guys able to see all three within the Pantheon, or one or two is like one like a major portion of it, or no, or we're not collecting data of that?
We're not necessarily, I wouldn't be able to speak with data, but from vision perspective, I wouldn't want to exclude anybody, right? Like I don't want to Pantheon to be a place where people feel unwelcomed. And that's why I think we started this barista workshop and home barista trainings, because we felt like rather than telling customers what's good coffee and what's bad coffee, like when they're getting their coffee, we should try and educate the market. And that's just more honest and humble, rather than saying, okay, we don't want unaware customers to buy our coffee, or reprimand them for asking for coffee that's really hot, or all those things where you can identify somebody who knows their coffee. There are many ways to identify somebody who knows their coffee and somebody who doesn't, but we want to help more people understand coffee rather than shun them, if that makes sense.
I love it. I totally love it. Totally get it. Next, I think last two. One is the home barista workshop. When and did how home barista workshop came into this mix? Was it always there? It's a recent initiative, and of course you've mentioned what the goal is behind it. But how often does it happen? What do people learn in that?
It is a rather recent initiative. And after we started, now I see a lot of other places trying to do it as well, which is a good thing. It happens at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on the availability of Ahmed. But yeah, at least once a month. And the idea came about a couple of months back, towards the end of last year, where I wanted to have more information and coffee knowledge on our Instagram. And one way we could have done that was just create posts with chunks of information and knowledge and just throw it out there. And I thought a better way would be to have these kinds of hands-on workshops with people who are interested, and then also make content out of that, and then that could be uploaded on the Instagram profile. And considering we have Ahmed as a partner, it felt very easy and organic to initiate this. And so I had a conversation with Ahmed, and we could begin it within
It
2
doesn't get
weeks.
better.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really doesn't get better. Having Ahmed, who is literally the authority on it, having a brand like Pantheon, and it just doesn't. And I'm saying that especially because this experiential products market in Pakistan, I have seen. I'm a very big supporter of, and the reason I'm supporter of is because we've been doing it in Singapore, in Australia, in my entire last decade. Like this was the kind of thing that we as either as couples or friends or just like engage or even for networking sessions we'll engage in these different workshops, and they could be just sometimes just combined workshops. One zoo workout class is happening as an experiential product or something and something, and then I see Mashkale, who's also been here on the podcast. She, also about 5-6 years ago is thinking about how she wants to engage with the world and the kind of platform she wants to build. So we've done a few workshops at her, and absolutely tremendous experience to get to just for like friends to get together or couples to have something together. And bus karte karte, I think even the first workshop you guys did, I think probably November, December, did get in my radar, and we decided कि हम इस पे जाएंगे. Back then we were in either Cambodia or Saudi Arabia, so हमें नजर आ रहा था, लेकिन हम थे नहीं. अभी इस दफा वाले में फरवरी वाले में तो और ही कोई इमरजेंसी चल रही थी बड़े लेवल की, तो वो तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं हो सका. लेकिन वी कीपिंग अ टैब ऑन इट,
March
क्योंकि मार्च में हो रहा है.
we'll have March May we'll have a latte art workshop. We won't have a home barista workshop because रोज़ों की वजह से we won't be able to do sensory and a bunch of other things that require
Oh,
you to
right. Yeah,
taste
yeah.
coffee. But we're thinking of having a latte art workshop, which means you can, do your latte art without having to drink the coffee. It's unfortunate that a little coffee will have to go to waste, but
But शाम को
uh,
नहीं, post अफ्तार नहीं हो, that is not a good time. Post अफ्तार नहीं हो पाता.
कर सकते हैं, लेकिन yes, इफ्तारी के बाद, if you
I
start
know.
at, I don't
It's
know what, 7,
I
8, then
the reason I'm saying that is that we are organizing a workshop within our platform as well. Who has been on the first guest on our platform, the big fat rolls wala, but we will do it after, I think after iftar only. I think it's going to be some around last week of Ramadan, but basically give people something new to make for the Eid, and I hope it goes
nice.
well. But let's see. So
But
okay, yeah,
it's a good idea.
it's a
I'll talk to Ahmed about it. We'll see. But yeah.
Hani, definitely, and let's see if we can reach out to the Kaabil Kahani community as well if they want to attend that workshop.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that
that
would be
would
great.
be super
Thanks.
cool. Last question is around the social media, because anyways you also just mentioned social media organically as well. But abhi tak in the last 4 years, what has been the psychology behind social media? किस Instagram है या बाकी channels भी हैं, जैसे TikTok, YouTube, etc. और what is the psychology? Why social? हमने किस तरह यूज करना है? हम जो अपनी मेन्यूज अपलोड करने हैं, बस behind the scenes pictures अपलोड करनी है, या how is our Pantheon Coffee social media Instagram is going to interact with the world, and uh, any insights that you have gained, or any business you think it has been beneficial for the business or not so much? Uh, has it been driving for the business or driving for the awareness? And is there a particular kind of content that works better or not? Anything that is shareable without, and you can not share anything that is not to be shared.
Yeah. No, I think so far we haven't really generated a lot of business through Instagram, and that was never really the aim. Instagram, social media, and mainly we're using Instagram, was to have us out there, right? मेन पर्पस ये था कि हमारी presence is out there. Most of our sales are actually generated through the baked footfall, and being able to retain customers who try our coffee and then don't get a similar experience elsewhere. So I've heard that a lot, where people are like, मैं XYZ specialty coffee shop पे गया, लेकिन there's always a hit and miss. कभी अच्छी कॉफी मिल जाती है, कभी नहीं, barista पे डिपेंड करता है. लेकिन with you guys, it's sure shot. So most of our sales, I'd argue, are driven by retaining customers. Social media pay, the strategy now is, which I discussed with my team when I was in Pakistan recently, is that we want to have more knowledge-based content, more awareness about coffee, its production, the processes, um, um, profiling, brewing methods, you name it. So all kinds of information and knowledge that would be good for customers to have. And you'll see now increasingly our Instagram going into that direction, where maybe I'm like, I belong to an older generation where I feel like, uh, content that just leads to doom scrolling and brain rot perhaps shouldn't be encouraged so much, even though perhaps it gets a lot of interaction. And um, yeah, so I'm going to try कि हमारा जो content हो अब से वो थोड़ा knowledge based हो, that people get something out of it. Again, it won't be for sales, or it won't be for um, attracting customers per se. Yeah.
Perfect. You mentioned about a team as well. So just to end with, up Pantheon ki team, apart from the founder level, who are the people? How many people are there? What are the different, let's say, departments they're running?
So we have a small accounts department that is Hamza. So one thing, the partners are still very much involved in all the departments. So Hamza, with an accountant, we have an accountant overlooks the accounts. Then we have an operations manager who, with Ahmed, looks at the operations. Then there's me, who with Naheen and her team. So she has two staff members. We look at marketing and branding and all of those things. And Umar then looks at business development. And then we have about 20 baristas. And something very important to point out is that around 30% of our staff, and we want to make it 50% are women. And we also have around 10 to 15. So, I mean, in percentage with 20 people, it doesn't make so much sense. We have a few minorities working for us, which is also very important for me. So, yeah. So unlike a lot of places that only have male baristas, I want to have our team be diverse in terms of gender and also religion and ethnicity. And yeah.
What a great, at every level, so thoughtful. Pura Pantheon ka concept hi aa gaya, even in the hiring level as well. We want to have be representing and being giving opportunities to a lot of marginalized communities as well within
Yes.
Pakistan. Usman, where are all the places people can find you? Instagram तो मैंने handle बोल दिया. इसके अलावा सब कुछ एक दफा just in a structured manner सारा दोबारा से बता दो, including Instagram. Where are all the places people can find you, interact with your coffee, interact with your workshops, so on?
Yeah, so for workshops and our coffee studio, you can find us at our space, which is at Gul Mohar Trade Center, close to Main Market, Gulberg. Then you can find us at all the baked branches, at the PF Market, in Defense Phase 6, in Defense Z Block, and hopefully opening within the next 2 weeks in Gulberg, Main Boulevard, just behind the new KFC. This is where the McDonald's used to be, the old one, Main Boulevard Bay. And we are also operating in pop-up kitchen, which is run by Baked. So yeah, this is
And to get an
at the
update
moment.
on let's say, where do you show up with the pop-up kitchen? How do we stay up to date with that? Is there an email list? Is there a WhatsApp group, or is it Instagram page? Or
Instagram. So we try and post everything on our Instagram, but also on, for example, repost it on Pop-Up Kitchen and the Baked Instagram. Yeah, I think in terms of communication, that's the channel we use. Maybe after the podcast, I'd like to get your feedback on mailing lists, and perhaps that would
done.
be a good
Let's do
initiative.
it. Let's do it. With that, guys, I mean, this has been absolutely fabulous. You guys can feel it. I hope that you guys, all of you, have been watching it on YouTube and listening on Spotify, or reading it as a case study on Kabil.school. You guys got the value. I can tell you guys, I think roughly 20 years of my experience with from all the way the instant coffee to the commercial coffee to this. I had no idea, and I consider myself a decently educated person who has a mocha pot at home, who has a Vietnamese drip coffee at home, French press, espresso, so on and so forth. But this was so educational. I absolutely loved it. I hope you guys loved it as well. This is like you guys have gotten your cheat sheet of the different coffees as well. And I think it is time for you guys to experience that as well. So wherever you find Pantheon, as Usman has mentioned, do give it a try. Do leave a comment on the podcast how you found Usman, or on their page about after you've tried their coffee. Tag them on Instagram. Show your love, whatever feels comfortable. No obligations at all. Keep letting us know who are the other people in Pakistan, the founders that you find that they are amazing. You want to see, go behind the scenes of how they think about their brand, how they think about their business, how they think about their product. And we'll try our best to keep bringing those out for you guys. Until next time, this is Wakas and signing off from Kaabil Kahani. Bye bye.